When I was 15 years old, I moved to live with my grandfather's family due to my parents' work. It was very exciting for me to look forward to. However, in the beginning days, I found myself very bored in that place without much entertainment. Later, I found a group of children much older than me who also lived in the neighborhood. They became my friends. However, their way of entertainment was different from what I perceived as normal activities. They often drank in secret, and I began to get involved. Some of these kids were no longer students, they were older and had more life experience. With them, I felt I was becoming more mature. I also began to feel some guilt. I knew that this behavior was discouraged and could have a negative impact on my health and schooling. I was always vigilant and cautious. I did not tell my family because I knew they would be concerned and disappointed by this behavior. During that pastime, kids who were older than me would drive me around in search of excitement. This made me feel excited and nervous because I had never experienced anything like it. They often convinced me to engage in risky behaviors, one of which was shoplifting food and booze. They claimed it was an adventurous way to go. Although I felt uneasy at first, with their encouragement, I decided to try it once. Whenever we entered the store, my heart began to beat faster. We pretended to be picking out merchandise, trying not to arouse the store clerk's suspicion. I tried to hide my inner anxiety and also to convince myself that it was just an adventure game. Incredibly, each time we were undetected. This made me start to feel good about myself. On Monday morning, I woke up with my mind still foggy. I felt very physically exhausted. Just then, my grandfather knocked on my door, his voice with a hint of urgency. "What time is it? Don't get up. If you don't get up, you'll be late." Hearing my grandfather shout, I hurriedly put on my clothes, grabbed my school bag and left the house. As soon as I stepped out of the house, I realized that the bus was already in the station. Seeing that it was about to leave, I desperately tried to speed up my pace, hoping to catch it. However, the bus door was already closed and the bus left the platform. I felt very frustrated. I didn't want my grandfather to drive me to school because I didn't want to face his nagging and scolding eyes. I decided to walk to school, and I started walking slowly along the narrow road. The weather that day was very bad, visibility was very low, and a thick fog filled the area. I was wearing a black dress that seemed to blend in with my surroundings. I walked along the edge of the road for some distance. I did not notice a car approaching behind me. Suddenly, I heard an ear-splitting sound of brakes and instantly, I felt a sharp pain. I fell to the ground after my body was violently hit. The pain was unbearable and I felt my mind was in turmoil. I also heard a scream, but I couldn't be sure if it came from myself or the driver. When I regained consciousness, I appeared in a completely different world. I entered a space of peace and warmth. It was a bliss and peace beyond imagination, and I cannot describe in words how wonderful it was. In this space, I felt an indescribable joy and contentment that surpassed anything I had ever experienced before. I felt at one with everything around me. I also felt an infinite love and compassion that seemed to come from some kind of presence. In this space, time seemed to become irrelevant and I was just purely present, immersed in this beautiful realm. I cannot describe exactly how this experience made me feel because it cannot be described in exact words. Suddenly, a blinding light appeared in front of me. When I looked up, I saw a figure appear in front of me. Jesus stood there quietly. In his gaze, I saw forgiveness and hope. His presence transcended the boundaries of time and space and brought me a strong sense of security. The moment Jesus came closer to me, I felt a powerful energy envelop the entire space. This energy was so full of power and holiness that it left me feeling in awe. I immediately fell to my knees in front of him because I felt so small. He gazed at me with a loving gaze. He did not judge me. Instead, he conveyed to me his love for me. I remembered the story my grandfather once told me about the Bible. He said that God loves each of us, no matter what our past is, no matter what mistakes we have made, and that God's love is unconditional. As Jesus gazed at me, I had a strong feeling as if he could see into my mind and heart. In this moment, pieces of my past life were shown before my eyes like a movie. I saw myself bullying others with my friends. This scene made me feel ashamed and remorseful. I saw myself abusing illegal drugs with my friend. We were seeking fleeting pleasures. This behavior made me feel desperate and remorseful. I also saw what struck me most. In that scene, I was stealing beer from inside the store. I quietly put the merchandise in my pocket, and the clerk was too busy with his own work to notice my actions. Even though I wasn't caught, I saw the impact of my actions. The clerk was a mother of two who was having a hard time making ends meet. She spotted my theft on the security camera, but she did not choose to call the police. She took the loss of the store on her own. Her decision touched me deeply, and I felt her kindness and forgiveness. Jesus did not accuse or judge me. His gaze seemed to tell me that he was willing to give me salvation and a chance to start over. These experiences made me acutely aware of my mistakes and the harm I had caused to others. As Jesus held out his hands to me, I saw the wounds on his hands. I was reminded of the biblical story of him laying down his life to save mankind. After his death, the sins of mankind were forgiven. He opened his hands again and wanted me to embrace him and receive his love and forgiveness. I felt I did not deserve this because I had made so many mistakes. This shame and self-loathing made me afraid to look up at him directly. I bowed my head. Jesus spoke gently, "My child, anyone can make mistakes, and I hope that when I see you again, you have become a good person." His voice was full of comfort and encouragement. I lifted my head and gazed into that loving face. I felt the kindness and care in his eyes. I could no longer refuse his invitation. And my heart was filled with longing. I began to rush into his arms and I felt a surge of strength envelop me. In his embrace, I felt that I had received true forgiveness and redemption. I understood that although I had made mistakes, his love was unconditional. Just as we were embracing, suddenly I heard a surge of electricity. I felt a powerful energy pass through my soul. I longed to be with Jesus, to feel his presence and guidance. However, I found myself unable to open my eyes and see what was around me. This bondage and helplessness deepened my anxiety. I struggled to open my eyes, but I was unable to do so. Despite my inability to see around me, I chose to believe that Jesus was still with me. I felt very confused. Suddenly, I heard the sound of my heart beating, a very clear sound. I felt like I was in an ambulance or a hospital. My body was filled with pain. In this state of pain, my heart kept calling out to Jesus. Time seemed to become a blur, and I did not know how long had passed. I heard a familiar voice, the voice of my grandfather. He was calling out my name. The voice was so kind and warm. When I woke up from my hospital bed, the warm sunlight shone through the window into the room. This familiar glow made me feel very lucky. I was so happy to be back here. In this moment, I understood the preciousness and fragility of life. I realized that this was a fresh start, a chance to redefine my existence. Before I experienced this, my life lacked purpose and meaning. But from that day on, everything changed. Just then, the doors slowly opened and my grandfather walked in, and behind him were my parents. "Son, you are finally awake." My grandfather walked to the bedside and he gently held my hand. Tears welled up in the corners of my mother's eyes. "Son, you really scared us." My mother's voice was choked with sobs. She gently stroked my cheek. Later, I successfully entered college and chose law as my major. I wanted to help those who had made mistakes and give them a chance to start over. I understand that this idea may sound a bit naive. But I have been striving to pursue this goal. After going through this, I decided to share my experience of meeting Jesus with those around me. However, I encountered skepticism and mistrust. They told me I was lying, and some even thought I was crazy. I felt frustrated and alone, not knowing who to turn to for support or how to share my experience. As the internet grew, I gradually discovered a fact that surprised me. There were many people who had gone through similar experiences as I had. They too had encounters with Jesus and felt endless love and compassion. This discovery gave me the relief that I had finally found a community that could share and understand me. This experience taught me an important lesson: no matter what, it is never too late to start over. No matter what mistakes we have made, we can all be forgiven and given new opportunities. Jesus has given me new direction and purpose in life. Although I still face questions from the outside world, I am convinced of the authenticity of this experience. I have learned to accept the lack of understanding and doubt of others because I know that this experience is unique to me and only I can truly understand the meaning of it. This experience has inspired me to keep moving forward in my quest for inner peace and growth. I understand that every person's experience and growth path is unique, and my experience became a turning point in my life. I am grateful for this valuable opportunity that has allowed me to re-examine myself and find new meaning and purpose. From the time I was very young, I was influenced by my family to believe in the existence of God. Every week, I would go to church with my parents and listen to God's teachings. My parents taught me to respect my elders. They also taught me to help those who are in trouble. I have never touched illegal drugs because I understand the dangers of drugs to one's physical and mental health as well as to society. I know that as a Christian, I have a responsibility to protect myself and others from harm. When I was 19 years old, I tried alcohol, but I soon realized it wasn't for me. I was repulsed by the taste. I also understood that alcohol was potentially harmful to the human body. As a result, I decided to give up drinking to keep myself sober and healthy. My greatest hobby is fishing and hunting with friends. When I was 20 years old, I got my first job as an apprentice in an auto repair shop. This job was both an opportunity and a challenge for me. While saving the money I earned, I worked hard to learn auto repair skills and continue to improve my professionalism. From simple maintenance to complex engine troubleshooting, I tried to do my best. I dream of owning my own auto repair shop one day. Although this job is very hard, I know it is the only way to realize my dream. I had to rely on my own efforts to change my fate. After 4 years of hard work, I finally realized my dream. With the support of my friends, we opened a garage together. This was an important moment in my life and I felt proud and satisfied. On July 3, 2004, I worked late in the store that day. Due to financial constraints, I could not afford an electric lift, so we often worked with a hydraulic jack. Working with a hydraulic jack can be a relatively laborious and time-consuming task. While I was checking the car chassis, an accident happened. The hydraulic jack suddenly deflected and the car's chassis pressed against my chest. I instantly felt severe pain, breathing became extremely difficult. I struggled hard, but could not move my body. I could only call for help in the pain. Due to the lack of oxygen and severe pain, the sound I made was very faint. At that moment, I was in a state of panic and helplessness. I could only lie there in pain. Time seemed to become a blur, and I could not determine how long I had been lying there. Slowly, I drifted off to sleep. When I awoke, a sharp pain in my chest reawakened me. I realized that I was not free from my predicament. This repeated torture made me feel desperate. As time passed, I stopped feeling the pain. Suddenly, I was floating above the car. I looked down and found my body lying there, as if it had stopped breathing. Just then, a spinning black hole appeared around me, drawing my attention. It radiated a mysterious power, and I approached the portal curiously. The moment I stepped into the portal, a powerful force surrounded me. I felt myself moving at lightning speed. The portal was translucent, and I could see clearly what was outside. I saw myself leaving the Earth's atmosphere and my body moving fast through the galaxy. The stars were shining beautifully. I felt a sense of infinite freedom that was so intense. I have heard many people say that a light appears at the end of the tunnel. I can now tell you responsibly that it is true. When I entered that light, I was pushed out by a force. I instantly arrived at a peaceful and beautiful meadow. This meadow was filled with green grass, and a gentle breeze blew against them. This meadow was filled with all kinds of flowers, each emitting a charming fragrance. As I continued to walk along the meadow, I felt a sense of peace and harmony. I noticed that the flowers here were in many colors I had never seen before, and they bloomed with a glorious light, as beautiful as a rainbow. After a while, I came to a clear stream. A small wooden bridge spanned over the stream. When I crossed the bridge, I saw a house. The house was surrounded by a garden. A man approached me. As he drew closer, I was surprised to find that he looked almost identical to me. My mind was filled with confusion and I couldn't help but ask, "Why do you look like me?" I was full of doubts. He smiled and replied, "I am your twin brother." This answer confused me even more, because I had never heard that I had a twin brother. I replied firmly, "I don't have a twin brother." He laughed and gently explained that I was born very healthy. But he unfortunately died young. I was shocked to hear this news. He invited me to come with him to his home. I felt his warmth and sincerity, so I followed him into the house. When I entered the house, I found it very cozy. There were several beautiful landscape paintings hanging on the wall. The furniture was neatly arranged. I sat with him on the comfortable sofa. We continued to talk and share our experiences with each other. His voice was gentle and infectious, and every word was full of wisdom. He told me about his unique perspective on the world. Together we discussed the meaning of life. He gave me profound insights that helped me better understand and face the challenges in life. In his home, I gradually came to understand the true meaning of life. He invited me to go for a walk in the garden with him. After walking for some time, a building appeared in the distance. It emitted a dazzling light. It seemed to be suspended in the air and gave off a mysterious atmosphere. I asked what was inside that building. He smiled and replied, "That is where God often appears. This building is a sanctuary to connect with God. There, people can have spiritual dialogue and communication with God and seek wisdom and guidance." I was very surprised to hear this answer. Now God was actually so close to me. We moved toward the building, each step accompanied by an inner excitement. As we got closer, the building glowed brighter and brighter. It seemed to be constructed of pure white marble, and the entire building shone brightly in the sunlight. The shape of the building presented an elegant and stately design. It has streamlined curves and exquisite carvings. The main entrance of the building has two huge pillars with intricate and exquisite carvings in relief. The door is inlaid with precious stones. As we entered the doors of that building, my soul was baptized. At that very moment, an angel appeared before us. The angel was tall and majestic in size. Her wings seemed to be woven of pure light. Each feather shone with a silvery glow. The angel wore a long, white robe that fluttered gently. Her face is gentle and serene. Her presence emanated a divine aura, and the air around her seemed to become fresh and pure. The angel's voice was soft and warm. She told me that it was time to go back to my original life. To bring the knowledge I had learned back into the real world. Although I did not want to leave here, I understood that I had to go back now. With the guidance of the angels, I left the building. After I said goodbye to them, I went back into the portal and a powerful force pulled me forward. I traveled across the galaxy and back to Earth. The speed was like lightning. In an instant, I was back at the repair shop. The sun shone through the window on the floor, warm and bright. I knew that it was already the next morning. Suddenly, I heard someone open the door. I knew that I had to go back into my body and reconnect with the real world. I tried to lie down next to my body, but nothing worked. I felt confused and frustrated and didn't know how to go back. Just then, I heard a voice, as if it were a guide from deep within. It gently told me to enter through my head. I focused my mind and prepared to try again. My consciousness and body began to gradually merge and I could feel a warm energy flowing through me. When I opened my eyes again, I found that I had managed to get back into my body. I felt my breath and heard the beating of my heart. I realized that I had returned to the real world. I began to cry out for help, hoping to get my friend's attention. He was very worried about me and immediately called the emergency number of the fire department. Firefighters quickly arrived on the scene. The firefighters quickly launched a rescue operation, using specialized equipment to free me from my predicament. I was successfully pulled out of harm's way. I looked gratefully at the rescuers and expressed my gratitude to them. I was taken to the hospital for further examination and treatment. The doctors were surprised at my condition. I did not have broken ribs. Only extensive bruises and abrasions. To make sure I had no other potential injuries, the doctors decided to keep me in the hospital for 2 days for observation. After 2 days of observation, the doctors confirmed that I was in good health and did not experience any discomfort or complications. On the 3rd day, I walked out of the hospital. Although my body was still a little tired, I felt very happy. This experience made me understand how fragile and precious life is. I returned home with great excitement, and the first person I wanted to see was my mother. My mother's face lit up with happiness and joy. She quickly walked towards me and hugged me tightly. After dinner, we sat together in a warm and cordial atmosphere. There was some concern inside me, and I didn't know how to mention to her about my injury experience, because I didn't want to worry her. I gently asked my mother if I had a twin brother. My mother's expression instantly became complicated and her eyes became moist. She began to weep incessantly. My mother grabbed my hand, and her voice trembled a little. She told me that I did have a twin brother, but he passed away shortly after birth. She never told me this fact to protect me so that I could grow up happy. I was shocked to hear this news. I stroked my mother's hand and whispered to comfort her, telling her she didn't have to hide the secret anymore. I loved her deeply and appreciated everything she had done for me. Later, I shared my experience with a few friends. Most of them were happy for me when they heard it. We discussed about the possibility of the supernatural. However, one friend approached my experience with skepticism. He told me that it was just a hallucination I was having. He tried to explain my experience with science. Despite the skepticism, I tried to remain calm and rational. I know that everyone has their own beliefs and opinions. My experience is difficult for them to accept. I respect their opinions. But I also hold fast to my own beliefs. I don't need everyone to believe in my experiences, it's important that I know they are true for myself. My experiences have changed my perception of life. I decided to keep this experience within myself and use it to inspire and remind myself. Everyone has their own beliefs and opinions, and we can respect and understand each other.